The banquet hall aboard the imperial flagship is designed to impress, which it absolutely does. Soaring ceilings inlaid with bioluminescent patterns, gravity-defying architecture that shouldn't be possible but apparently is, and enough precious metals in the decorative elements to fund a small colony. Owen Marsh, human diplomatic attaché to the Vel'shaar Empire, sits at a table trying not to look as overwhelmed as he feels while surrounded by alien dignitaries whose species he mostly can't identify and whose political importance he definitely can't assess accurately. This is his first formal state dinner since being assigned to the Empire delegation 6 months ago, and he's acutely aware that everything he does is being observed and judged by beings whose cultural protocols he's still learning. The Vel'shaar are particular about etiquette, hierarchy, and the elaborate social rituals that govern interactions between their ruling class and representatives of lesser civilizations. Humans are considered promising but unproven, advanced enough to merit diplomatic contact, but not significant enough to command serious respect. Queen Sela'vyn herself presides over the banquet from an elevated platform that puts her literally above everyone else, which Owen has learned is standard Vel'shaar symbolism rather than personal arrogance. She's striking even by the diverse standards of this gathering, tall and elegant with crystalline skin that shifts colors subtly, wearing ceremonial armor that's more art than protection. She's ruled the Vel'shaar Empire for 30 years and commands authority that spans 200 star systems. The meal service begins with elaborate ceremony. Servers present dishes in careful sequence, each course announced in formal language that Owen's translator struggles with. He follows the lead of nearby diplomats, eating cautiously and trying not to commit any obvious protocol violations. The food is exotic, prepared using ingredients and techniques he doesn't recognize, but it's generally palatable once you get past the unfamiliar textures. What Owen doesn't notice, what he has no way of noticing, is the server who approaches Queen Sela'vyn's private table with a prepared meal intended specifically for her. The server places the dish, bows appropriately, and departs. The meal sits untouched as Sela'vyn continues addressing her advisors about matters Owen can't hear from his distant table. The confusion happens quickly. A different server, not realizing the meal on Sela'vyn's table is specifically prepared for her biology, assumes it's meant for general service, and transfers it to the communal distribution. The dish ends up on Owen's table, presented as part of the standard diplomatic service. Owen, not knowing it was intended for anyone specific, accepts it when offered and begins eating. The food is different from the other courses, stronger flavors, unusual spice combinations, textures that are almost uncomfortably intense. Owen assumes it's some Vel'shaar delicacy meant to challenge human palates and continues eating because refusing would be diplomatic insult. He finishes most of the portion before moving to the next course. 20 minutes later, Owen realizes something is very wrong. His vision is blurring, his hands are trembling, and there's a burning sensation spreading through his chest that's getting rapidly worse. He tries to stand, intending to excuse himself quietly, and discovers his legs won't support him properly. He collapses, knocking over his chair, and the entire banquet hall goes silent. The chaos that follows is immediate and terrifying. Medical personnel rush to his side, scanners appear from nowhere, and Owen is vaguely aware of urgent conversations happening around him in languages he doesn't understand. The burning sensation is intensifying into genuine agony. His respiratory system is failing, and his vision is reducing to narrow tunnel that's getting darker by the second. Through the confusion, he hears a voice cutting through with absolute authority, Queen Sela'vyn, demanding answers about what happened to the human diplomat. Someone responds with panic in their voice, explaining that Owen consumed her personally prepared meal, that it contains compounds lethal to human biology, that he's experiencing catastrophic poisoning and will die without immediate intervention. Owen wants to apologize for the diplomatic incident he's apparently causing, wants to explain it was an accident and not some human insult to Vel'shaar culture. But he can't form words anymore and everything is going dark. The last thing he's aware of before consciousness fails is Sela'vyn's face appearing above him, her crystalline features showing an expression he can't interpret, and her voice commanding that every physician in the Empire be summoned immediately to save his life. Owen regains consciousness in what appears to be a medical facility, though it's far more advanced than anything human medicine uses. He's surrounded by monitoring equipment displaying data he doesn't understand, connected to systems performing functions he can't identify, and experiencing a level of pain that suggests whatever happened to him was severe, and the treatment isn't entirely successful yet. A Vel'shaar physician notices his consciousness and approaches with the careful attention of someone monitoring a critical patient. "You're awake. Excellent. Your bio-signs are stabilizing, though you're not recovered yet. Do you remember what happened?" Owen's voice comes out hoarse and weak. "Ate something at the banquet, collapsed. Don't remember much after that. You consumed Queen Sela'vyn's personal meal, which was prepared specifically for her biology, and contains compounds that are nutritious for Vel'shaar, but catastrophically toxic to humans. You experienced severe poisoning affecting multiple organ systems. We've been treating you for 36 hours using techniques we had to develop specifically for your case, because human poisoning by Vel'shaar dietary compounds has no precedent in our medical databases." The implications of this slowly penetrate Owen's pain-fogged consciousness. "I ate the Queen's food. That wasn't intended for general service. I've created diplomatic incident by poisoning myself with royal meal." "The incident isn't your fault. There was service error that placed her meal into general distribution. But yes, you've created unprecedented situation that's required summoning physicians from across the Empire to develop treatment protocols. Queen Sela'vyn has been concerned about your survival." Owen tries to process this while managing pain that's making thinking difficult. Before he can respond, the medical bay doors open and Queen Sela'vyn herself enters, accompanied by advisors who look uncomfortable with her presence in medical facility. She approaches Owen's bed with expression he's learning to read as distress, despite the crystalline features that don't map to human emotions clearly. "You're conscious. The physician said your recovery was progressing but couldn't guarantee success." Her voice carries tones he hasn't heard from her before, less commanding authority, more genuine concern. "Your Majesty, I apologize for the diplomatic incident. I didn't know the meal was specifically yours. I should have been more careful about what I consumed." "You apologize. You're dying from poison meant for me and you're apologizing for the inconvenience." Sela'vyn's crystalline skin flashes colors that Owen's cultural database suggests indicate surprise or confusion. "The fault is entirely ours. The service error, the security failure that allowed poison into my food supply, the medical unpreparedness for treating human biology. You've done nothing requiring apology except survive against probability." "Poison meant for you." Owen tries to sit up, discovers that's a terrible idea, and settles for staying horizontal while processing this information. "Someone tried to assassinate you and I accidentally intercepted it." That's the current assessment. The compounds in the meal were specifically calculated to be lethal to Vel'shaar biology while appearing as normal dietary preparation. The fact that you consumed it instead revealed the assassination attempt before I was exposed. Your accidental intervention saved my life while nearly ending yours." The physician interrupts with professional concern. "Your Majesty, the human needs rest for continued recovery. Extended conversation will strain systems that are still repairing critical damage." "I understand, but I wanted him to know his survival matters beyond diplomatic protocol. He unintentionally prevented my assassination, and I am grateful, deeply grateful." She pauses, her crystalline features shifting through colors. Recover, Owen Marsh. The Empire owes you debt that transcends normal diplomatic relations. She leaves, and Owen is left trying to process that he somehow became involved in imperial assassination plot by accidentally eating poisoned food at a state dinner. The absurdity would be funny if he wasn't in excruciating pain from toxins that were designed to kill someone with completely different biology. Over the following days, Owen's recovery proceeds slowly under care of physicians who are essentially inventing human toxicology treatment as they go. The poison was sophisticated and multi-layered, designed to kill Vel'shaar biology through cascading system failures. Human biology responds differently but still catastrophically. His liver is damaged, his cardiovascular system is stressed, and his neurological function is impaired in ways that might be permanent. What surprises Owen more than the medical challenges is Queen Sela'vyn's continued presence. She visits daily, staying longer each time, asking about his recovery and gradually shifting from formal concern to something approaching actual conversation. She explains that the assassination attempt has been traced to a faction opposing her diplomatic opening to humanity. They view humans as threatening to Vel'shaar dominance, and targeted her specifically for policies that treat humans as potential equals rather than vassals. They chose poison because it's deniable and difficult to trace. They didn't expect you to intercept it accidentally. Your survival is both medical miracle and political complication for them. Because now there's human victim of Vel'shaar assassination plot. That seems like diplomatic disaster for your relations with humanity. It could be if you were vindictive, but you've responded with remarkable grace. No accusations, no demands for compensation, just focus on recovery and concern about diplomatic implications. That's not what we expected from humans. Owen manages a weak smile despite the pain. What did you expect? Anger, demands, threats, insistence on retribution for what happened. That's how most species respond when their representatives are harmed. You've done none of that. Because it was an accident, and you're doing everything possible to help me survive. Getting angry about assassination attempt that wasn't even targeting me seems pointless. I'd rather focus on recovering and figuring out if there's anything useful I can do with the fact that I accidentally prevented a major political crisis. Sela'vyn's crystalline skin shifts through colors. Owen is learning to associate with respect. You possess remarkable composure for someone experiencing what our physicians describe as extraordinary suffering. They say your pain levels should make rational thought nearly impossible, yet you continue engaging in coherent political analysis. Pain is temporary. Diplomatic consequences of my response will last longer. Seems more important to manage the second even if the first is overwhelming. That perspective is admirable and rare even among my own people. Their conversations continue throughout his recovery, and Owen finds himself genuinely connecting with the Queen beyond formal diplomatic protocols. She's sharp, politically astute, and carrying burdens of governance that she rarely discusses openly, but occasionally reveals in unguarded moments. He learns that the diplomatic opening to humanity is personal priority for her, born from belief that the empire needs to evolve beyond conquest-based expansion toward genuine partnership with other civilizations. The assassination attempt reflects how controversial this vision is among traditional factions. 2 weeks into his recovery, Owen is finally stable enough to consider what happens next. The physicians have done remarkable work, but some damage is permanent. His liver function is compromised, his neurological responses show persistent impairment, and he's looking at chronic health issues from toxins that were never meant for human biology. He'll survive, but he's not going to fully recover to his pre-poisoning condition. Queen Sela'vyn visits again, this time without the usual advisory entourage. She sits near his medical bed with unusual informality, her crystalline features showing colors he's learned to read as concern mixed with determination. The physicians say you'll survive, but with lasting effects. I wanted to discuss what the Empire can offer in recognition of what you've endured. You don't owe me anything, Your Majesty. I accidentally intercepted assassination attempt while making serving error. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who got unlucky with food selection. You endured extraordinary suffering without complaint or accusation. You maintained diplomatic grace while experiencing agony that should have destroyed rational thought. You demonstrated courage and character that has genuinely impressed my entire court. Luck or not, your response matters more than the circumstances. What are you proposing? Formal recognition of your service, enhanced diplomatic status, medical support for your ongoing health challenges, and... She pauses, her colors shifting in ways he can't quite interpret. My personal gratitude, which I offer rarely and only to those who have demonstrated genuine worth beyond their station. Owen considers this carefully. The practical benefits are significant. Enhanced status would give him actual influence in diplomatic negotiations. Medical support would help manage his chronic issues. But the personal gratitude from Queen Sela'vyn feels more significant than the formal recognitions. I accept the practical support gratefully. The personal gratitude. I'm not sure what that means in Vel'shaar culture, but I'm honored if my response to accidentally poisoning myself has earned your respect. It means I consider you valuable beyond your diplomatic function. It means when I make decisions affecting humanity, I'll remember that at least one human demonstrated honor and resilience worthy of genuine partnership. It means you've changed my perspective on what humans are capable of, which will affect how the Empire engages with your entire species. The weight of this statement settles on Owen slowly. His accidental poisoning and his response during recovery have apparently influenced how the Vel'shaar Empire views humanity generally. One person's grace under suffering has become evidence that humans deserve serious partnership rather than patronizing tolerance. That's a lot of weight to put on one person's response to food poisoning. Leadership requires recognizing significant indicators when they appear. Your character during crisis is a significant indicator about human potential. I'm using that information to support policies I already believed were correct but faced opposition implementing. She stands, preparing to leave, but pauses to add something that seems more personal than political. You asked what my gratitude means. In practical terms, it means you have my support and protection as long as you're within the Empire. In personal terms, it means I consider you a friend, which is a status I grant rarely and value highly. Recover well, Owen Marsh. The galaxy is better with you in it. After she leaves, Owen lies in the medical bed processing everything that's happened. He came to a state dinner as minor diplomatic attaché, accidentally ate poisoned food meant for the Queen, survived against probability, and apparently earned genuine friendship from one of the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. The chronic health issues are unfortunate, but the diplomatic and personal connections he's developed might actually justify the suffering. 6 months later, Owen has returned to active diplomatic service with enhanced status and ongoing medical support from Vel'shaar physicians. His relationship with Queen Sela'vyn has developed into genuine friendship that transcends their political roles. They meet regularly, discuss policy and philosophy, and she's become an advocate for human interests within the Empire that exceeds anything humanity's formal diplomacy achieved previously. The assassination conspirators were caught and dealt with quietly. The diplomatic opening to humanity has strengthened, partially because Owen's demonstrated character during his poisoning became evidence that humans possess qualities the Vel'shaar Empire respects. His accidental intervention saved the Queen's life and inadvertently proved that humans deserve partnership rather than tolerance. Owen occasionally reflects on the absurdity of how he became significant, by unknowingly eating poisoned food, and then suffering with enough grace that he impressed alien royalty. It's not the career path he planned, but it's the one he's got, and the friendship he's developed with Sela'vyn feels more valuable than any planned diplomatic achievement. Because sometimes the most important bonds form through accident and crisis, rather than deliberate strategy. Sometimes your response to unintended suffering matters more than avoiding suffering entirely. And sometimes eating the wrong meal at a state dinner changes everything. Not because you meant to intervene in assassination plots, but because how you handle the consequences reveals character that transcends species and establishes foundations for genuine partnership across the galaxy.